Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's Let's Talk Dairy. So this week, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, mainly talking with Martin Connaughton in Newtown Castle in County Longford about milking once a day for the spring, for a period just to manage workload. So I'm just going to briefly show a slide initially in relation to work that was completed by Emer Kennedy in relation to milking once a day. So I'll just share this here first, and then we'll start having a chat with Martin at that stage. So thanks, Martin, for coming on today. Appreciate you coming on. So milking once a day to manage spring workload. So we did a little bit on Martin's namesake, Eamon Connaughton, who's milking full-time once a day in January as part of the once a day conference. But there's also work being done here in Moorepark in relation to once a day in the early lactation stage and also late lactation and the impact that has on overall production, etc. But it's all been driven by a workload management piece. So this is just a summary slide from Emer's work in relation to the once a day. So you can see that after 35 weeks of lactation, where they compared once a day for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks versus twice a day, that you can see that once a day, 4 weeks is intermediate in terms of yield versus twice a day, and then is very similar in terms of yield versus once a day 6 and once a day 8. And milk solids wise, similarly speaking, they're kind of similar between the once a day 4 and twice a day. And then the other two once a day treatments are on similar part to the once a day 4. So generally speaking, what we'll be suggesting to people is that the 3 to 4 weeks of once a day is kind of your maximum time length or most appropriate time length to get the balance right between the labor management piece and also not having excesses loss of production. So I suppose you can see all the bits and pieces that Emer has in here, but it's important to highlight this last point here, is that in this trial, the cows were all put in once a day and kept on once a day for 4 weeks, no matter what date they calved, basically, to look at the impact on production. Whereas at farm level, as Martin will be highlighting here, the first cow that calved on Martin's farm is obviously going to do the full length of once a day period until they decide to go back twice a day. Whereas obviously the cows that maybe milk 1 or 2 or calved 2 or 3 days prior to the switch back to twice a day will go back on twice a day when the rest of the herd goes. So the whole herd won't be on once a day for that period of time. And that would mean that at farm level, the impact in terms of solids, which as you can see here on this trial was only, and it's just important to point out now that this is 35 weeks of lactation. This isn't the full lactation, that there was only 10 kgs of a difference in between those two groups. So very minimal and even less at farm level as a result of the fact that not all cows are going to be on once a day for the full period of time. So as I said, Emer has covered that already. So what I wanted to do today, I suppose, is to get the farmer's viewpoint on the benefits of it. So as I said, I'm joined by Martin, and Martin is farming in County Longford with his dad and his fiancée Niamh. And Martin, I suppose you have an interesting story to tell in that you're milking once a day currently, and you were milking 4 times a day a couple of years ago. So thanks for coming on. You've done a spell in Saudi Arabia milking out there, so a very intensive kind of production system over there.
Yeah. We're milking 4 times a day, 12,000 cow farm. High yielding cows. The farm average was 44 litres a day. I went out there in February 2016, and then land became available at home beside the home farm in late 2020 or early 2020, and we took it and started to develop it, and then I came home for the heifers calving in February 21. So,
and you've also, as well as this is your first year actually full spring calving, you've transitioned back from kind of a winter milk kind of scenario / all year round.
Dad would have kind of been all year round calving or winter milking as well, and there last spring when I came home, we were milking twice a day because we had stale cows, we had autumn calvers, we had a few empty cows still floating about the farm, and they were all been milked. So there was no real point in doing once a day because we were milking twice a day anyway for them cows. So then this year we transitioned across to full spring calving, and we just decided we'd try once a day. Niamh was telling me that Emer Kennedy's research says there was very little difference in milk production, so we said we'd try it. And
And how many cows have you to calve this year now?
127, I think.
Okay, and that's not too.
number.
That's nearly kind of your target number is around the 130, 140.
Yeah,
Is it? Yeah.
between 130 and 140 is where we'll probably sit all along, but we're just slightly under it this year now.
Okay.
But we just said we'd do it anyway. We were calving fairly intense in the first 3 weeks, so with a lot of calves on farm, trying to get them going and everything, we says we'd try the once a day just to free up time in the evenings and that, instead of running around chasing our tail, sort of.
Yeah. So the motivate, I will say, I suppose what I probably want to get from you for other people, like there's a proportion of people are doing what you're doing. You obviously made the decision to go and do that this year for the first time. So we'll say cell count is something that's a big concern for people in relation to this. How have you found? No, I know you don't get many cell count results at this time of year because you're maybe on 3-4 day collections, but cell count is going well with you.
Yeah, we've only sent 3 load and we've got 3 results for it. It kind of fluctuated from 107 to 142, I think. So I wasn't that concerned about the cell count really, because we did once a day just before dry off last winter, and the cell count went all right. I know the cows were drying off and that, but we weren't really concerned about the cell count. Any cow that would have been a problem cow that we would know about, we dip the clusters with peracetic acid after, just to stop cross-contamination anyway. So
yeah, very good. And in relation to the actual benefits, then we'll say, I know talking to you yesterday, you were saying that last year there was I won't say pandemonium, but like there was a lot going on the farm because of different groups, and you had 70 heifers calving down as you were transitioning to your spring milk situation.
Yeah.
And so that was a pressure cooker kind of situation. But comparing last year to this year, even though it mightn't be a fair comparison in terms of the decision to go once a day, like, is it something that you'll continue into the future?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say we'll definitely do once a day anyway for the first month. Every year from now on, it seems to be working very well. Like cows seem very happy on it, seem to recover very quick after calving as well. Like I'd have no issues near at all with it really. I think it's a mighty job, like, and it frees up a lot of time, like especially if like this time of the year, if you're able to get cows out during the day and that, like it gives you a savage scope there. Like you can do your jobs in the middle of the day and then just take in your cows in the evening and feed your calves and you're done. Like it's a mighty job, like.
And from the point of view of actually feeding the calves, then you're obviously collecting all the milk in the morning. Are you heating up the milk then in the afternoon or what?
Yeah, the heifer calves are kept on milk for the first 4 or 5 days, or the dairy heifers, and then they're put on the milk replacer, so they can kind of be fed at any stage. And then any antibiotic milk or high cell count milk or whatever, that's collected and we keep it there, and we have a milk heater then, and we feed that to bull calves, and we do that. If we have enough, then we'll have to put a batch on milk replacer as well, like, but try and keep them on whole milk if we can, bulls.
And you were saying as well there that you'll do it for a month. Are you going to be very fixed in that, or will you be flexible in terms of when you return to the twice a day?
We probably will do it for the month, just the way the cows seem to be, the projection for calving is going this year. But if the cows calve down quicker and the mad burst of calving was over, you could go back earlier. Like there's no fixed, I said I'm doing a month, like next week, like we could decide, right, it's slowed down well, we can go back twice a day and there'll be no issue, like, you know.
Yeah. So your main driver for doing it was obviously to free up time, and you think it's really delivered in that sense?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Definitely.
And from the point of view of we'll say your dad and yourself are there together, obviously, like, so some people might say, wasn't there plenty of help in the air? Like, why bother with it? Like, but do you think there are added benefits to it then around the labor? Like you said, the cows have settled quite well into it.
Yeah, there is, yeah. Like you would manage like milking them twice a day too, but there's extra stress with that. Like if you have a bad day with calves, not drinking and that, like you get wound up fairly quick. But like no, I don't know. He would have been kind of old school. You milk twice a day, 12-hour intervals, and when we said it to him, we'd try it. he was all for it, and we tried it, and he sees benefits to it like as well. He's not wishing like we didn't do it, and he's happy enough with it like.
Yeah, like it's just like how many, what's it, your expected 6-week calving rate, roughly speaking, like for the coming year, for this year?
81%, I think.
81%. So that's a lot of, like, you've had 90, and a lot of, half of that is coming probably in the first 3 weeks anyway, so, or more.
Yeah.
So you're busy with calves at the minute anyway as well, like.
Oh yeah. I think there's over 70 calves there now at the minute, so it's hectic enough. But the pressure kind of goes off when the calves get a couple of days old with them. Like once they get strong enough that they can go on a milk bar feeder, it's just kind of feed them. Then there's no real standing over them making sure they're drinking. You can just kind of watch them at a distance, or if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it gives you more, once a day gives you more time and that kind of fine tune cow health and make sure your calves are right, like in bed and sheds, and I don't know, you're not under any major pressure. Like it frees your day up completely, that you can focus on other jobs like.
And just you said about the grass management side of things there as well. Now, are you out day and night, or are you just out by day?
We went out day from the 1st of February, and we were only in one wet day since. We tried letting them out one night, but it worked grand, yeah. But the weather has been kind of catchy at night with us, so we just keep it simple. Just give them half their allocation and silage in the shed, and let them out the next morning then for a couple of hours.
Yeah, because you've probably been getting more rain actually up in the west than we've been getting down here so far anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. The weather has just been funny. Like it's been kind of stormy, windy, rainy sort of weather, and
a good deal cooler than Saudi as well, I'd say.
You'd want the coat, all right.
I suppose one of the concerns that people often have in relation to it is, we'll say, cows leaking milk onto the cubicles and stuff like that. Is that something that you've seen, and we'll say, what way do you feel about it? Like,
well, yeah, there is that going on. Like when the cows are in at night, like when you go down to the shed to take them out in the morning, like you will see, like especially the earliest calving ones, they'll be well full of milk, like they'll be starting to run the milk. But I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. Like, sure, if you were autumn calving and you had a high yielding herd, to be doing it too. Like when you go down in the middle of December, you'd have your cows leaking milk on the cubicles. We'd have a very young herd now too, with all the heifers that was calved this year and last year as well. So mastitis hasn't, touched wood, so far been a problem. So I wouldn't see it. Line the cubicles well and keep them clean, sort of. That's it.
Yeah, okay, very good. And as so you've 70 cows calved and out of 127, we'll say, as I was saying there a minute ago, have you kind of thought about going back a bit sooner? Like I was saying to you yesterday, I've been talking to a number of other people that are practicing the once a day in early season, and they're just beginning to go back there now as well at the moment.
Well, we were just looking at the calving projection last night on the herd app, and next week is a busy week again. So we'll get that one over us, and we might make a call on it then.
Yeah.
But it kind of slows down well after, I think, next Thursday or Friday. So if you got a couple of days after that and the calves and that had settled in and been fed, you could switch back over handy enough, like.
Yeah, so you're probably looking at the 1st of March, and
yeah, we probably will end up that we'll just let it run to the 1st of March and just for the first year and see how we go. But as I say, at any stage you could just start the parlour in the evening. Like there's no fixed.
Yeah.
You have to keep at it, like.
Yeah. I suppose just to summarize it then, like obviously kind of nothing to compare it with, maybe in terms of the potential losses of milk that people might be worried about, but it's obviously, as you said there yourself, and Eve have been looking at what Emer had done, and you were seeing that there was no major concern about it. No. Like you're very happy with the way the cows are yielding currently.
Oh, definitely. And even like last year when we calved down the 70 heifers, we had a bit of a problem there after. Well, it wasn't really a problem either, but you know, the way heifers wouldn't just drop milk for the first couple of milkings. When you put them on once a day, they seem to settle into it better. The milk letdown is a lot better with it. Personally, I think that anyway. But
yeah, I'd say there's possibly a bit of merit in what you're saying. The stress of going into the parlour for the first time can be a problem for heifers, obviously, and the fact that they're only doing it once in the day as opposed to twice in the day, is possibly a factor in it as well. Like, so, then the other side of it, I suppose, is just if you were to be an advocate for once a day, what would you say to people? Like, we'll say there's like you said there, now your father was old school in terms of he milked twice a day. That's just what he did. But then when he introduced the idea of going once a day for a period, he wasn't that against it like either.
Well,
so.
When we said it to him first, it was kind of like, you're joking, right? But see, he was calving all year round, and when we went fully spring calving this year, I suppose he got a bit of a land to how fast calves were dropping.
Yeah.
So it became more of a right, we'll do it sort of a situation. A lot changed like in the last 2 years with the farming system here.
Yeah.
And that, so it's all kind of new to him and us as well. Like, so we're just trying and see how it goes, and sure, if it doesn't work, we won't do it again. But so far, we're happy enough anyway. Like,
very good. And I suppose finally the whole piece around the mastitis control. Are you doing anything more in the parlour in the morning when you are milking in order to keep on top of it, or is it just your normal
you'd strip out the cows? Every cow would be stripped out just to make sure there's no cruds or that. But apart from dipping the high cell counters with peracetic acid after their milk to stop cross contamination, no, there'd be nothing. Teat spray them well when they're going out. That'd be pretty much it. We'll do a milk recording there on Paddy's Day, hopefully when we have more calved than that and settled in, and see how the thing is going then.
And when you say you're dipping the high cell counters there, you said it earlier as well, and I meant to pick up on it. Are they just the cows that you had identified as high cell count last year until you get a cell count for them now?
Yeah, there was cows in the herd like running at, it could be around 350 or that, and we tried treating them last year to get it to come down, but didn't come down anyway. And instead of culling them out of the herd, when we milk them, we just cluster dip that cluster before moving on to the next one. And there's a tape, they're all taped in the parlour on their tail, so you can identify them quickly when they come in, like, blue tape, right, we have to dip her. And even last year, without the once a day, we were having a cell count problem kind of earlier on in the year. And when we started dipping the cows, within 2 months, it had dropped like from 200,000 back down under 100. Like, it was incredible the drop it took. Like,
yeah, you'd cut the spread basically. Like, yeah. So you're just as a matter of routine at the moment. Any of those cows that were problems last year, they have the blue tape on their tail still, and you're still dipping them. Yeah. You're not doing anything with the CMT test paddle or anything as cows are calving or around the time of calving.
Well, we bought the stuff for CMT testing, but hasn't just made its way out of the shade yet.
Very good, but sure, I suppose in fairness with the cell count that you said there at the 107 or 108, like, it's not, you're obviously on top of things. And I think were you saying you did a bit of selective last year as well, did you?
Yeah, we did selective dry cow therapy on basically Anton that hadn't got mastitis and had 5 milk recordings of a cell count under was it 80,000. They all got sealer alone, and there was 20 odd ones of them done, I think.
Okay.
And some of them have calved already, and no issue with them doing no mastitis, like straight back into the tank. Like, it was
very good.
Great, like.
And was that your first year trying it?
Yeah, first year trying it. Yeah.
Very good.
Sure, with calving the 70 heifers, it was a good year to do it. Like, first lactation animals, we said we'd take the stab at it. The only thing that we did different was when the cows are dry, we limed and cleaned the cubicles twice a day.
Okay.
Like first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And whether that had any effect on it either, I don't know, but we just did it as a rule of thumb. And that was on selective. The cubicles are done twice a day when they were dry.
Okay, very good. The whole way through, or just in the
whole way through?
The whole way through. Okay.
Whole way through winter, yeah.
Okay, very good. So I suppose, as I was kind of starting it there a minute ago, just in summary, if you were to kind of give a couple of sentences to people as to why they should consider once a day from your perspective, having done it so far for this year? What would you say?
Well, sure, everyone is trying to calve tighter and tighter like now, and labour is becoming a serious issue on farm. And like, it's grand been really busy and under pressure, but you have to have a life too, like especially if you're hiring labour, and they kind of like, if you're hiring labour, they don't want to be in the yard until 10 o'clock at night, like.
Yeah.
And like, you have to be realistic about the thing too going forward. So the cow got a break, the man needs a break, sort of thing.
And just out of interest in Martin as well, from the Saudi situation where you were doing the 4 times a day, like we'll say, obviously you had a big team of people that you were working with, or maybe managing even. Like, you obviously got time off, like you weren't working 24 hours a day there, were you?
The way it worked when you go to Saudi was you'd work 6 weeks on, and then you'd be flew home for a fortnight off. But when you were on the ground in Saudi, you're 6 weeks on, it was six weeks straight, like you do your 7 days a week, 6 weeks.
But the length of the day then was?
Length of the day was 6 to 6, and some farms out there operated on a night shift thing, where you do say a fortnight on night shift, and then you do the last month before you come home, you do it on day shift. But I was lucky enough now, the farm I was on, we just had day shift, started at 6 in the morning, finished at 6 in the evening. And unless now there was something big going on, like vaccinations or whatever miscellaneous jobs, you'd like, your time was set out fairly well, 6 to 6, like.
Yeah.
The odd day you'd have your exception, like.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And sure, look, that's the nature of farming. But I suppose the point is that the yard is more or less shutting down for well, okay, maybe there was other people working.
Yeah, well, night shift kicked on after 6 o'clock, but
it's a different scenario. But from an Irish context, like, we should be targeting that. Why should it be any different for any other industry that you can be?
Well, especially like when, like, I wouldn't say we're losing any great litres or volume or that with what we're doing now at the minute. And I'd say when we do go back twice a day, the cows will kick over to fairly handy. Like, it might take a day or two of a transition, but I don't see us having a problem with it. Like,
it's again, Emer has highlighted that in her research as well, that it's almost immediate, the return to twice a day. They go back on par with the other twice a day cows in the style that she has done. So a win-win situation. So in summary, basically,
I definitely recommend it now, but trying to convince some of the old schoolers, it might be hard, like.
But sure, I suppose it's just getting people to think about the idea even is part of it. And it's a very good point to make, actually, about if you had a winter milk herd, they're going to be leaking on cubicles as well, like even being milked twice a day, like. So so look, thanks very much, Martin, for coming on. I really appreciate you. I'll thank James Dunn and Niamh for sorting you out for me. I appreciate you very much taking time out. I know it's still busy in the morning time there between milking and getting cows calves fed. So thanks for coming on.
No problem.
I hope people got some benefit from hearing what you had to say. So thanks to everyone for tuning in today. We'll be back next week. We're going to do a little bit of a grazing update next week in terms of where we're sitting with grass at the moment. As Martin has said, their conditions are a little bit trickier. I suppose they were fantastic for January, a bit more tricky for the month of February. So where we're at with grass will be what we'll be looking at next week. In light of the potential storm Eunice that's coming in there, everybody take care, mind yourselves, and keep safe over the next 24, 48 hours. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks again, Martin. Really appreciate it. Thank you.